On a quiet August morning in 2013, paramedics stepped into a small East London flat, expecting a routine emergency. Instead, they found horror. And little girl, Ayesha Ali, lay lifeless on the bedroom floor. Her mother, Polly Chowdhury, lay nearby, gravely injured in an apparent suicide attempt. On a bedside table, a note, a confession. But what looked like a mother's breakdown was, in truth, the final act of a tragedy years in the making. A tragedy spun from lies, obsession, and the terrifying power of manipulation. This is the story of how a mother was turned against her own child, and how a little girl, full of life and laughter, was led to believe she was the devil. Polly Chowdhury was born in 1979 in Hampstead, North London, a first-generation daughter of Bangladeshi immigrants. Her home was tight with expectations, obedience, tradition, silence. But Polly's spirit didn't bend easily. She fought back. She stayed out late. She questioned the rules. By her mid-teens, she was clashing constantly with her parents. Then came the scandal. Polly got pregnant. Her family reacted not with compassion, but with fury and shame. In a storm of shouting, threats, and ultimatums, Polly was coerced into having an abortion. It was a decision forced on her, and one she would never truly recover from. In the aftermath, she began to withdraw. She found comfort not in people, but in the unseen. She developed a deep belief in ghosts, spirits, and life after death. She'd talk about messages from beyond, hints, signs. They're always around us, she once told a cousin. Then came the arranged marriage, a match picked by her family, brief, cold, and abusive. It ended quickly, but not before leaving her bruised, silent, and more isolated than ever. Polly emerged from her teens fractured, emotionally scarred, and hungry. For stability, for connection, for love. And then she met Ayesha Ali in 1996. He lived nearby and worked full-time. She was working as a secretary. Their connection was easy, comforting, a soft contrast to the chaos of her youth. By 17, she was married again, on her terms this time, and the couple settled in Chadwell Heath, a quiet neighborhood on the eastern edge of London. They had 3 children over the next several years, and Polly seemed to thrive in motherhood. According to Aisha, she was gentle, present, loving, the kind of mother who always had time to brush the knots out of her daughter's hair or sing a lullaby, even after midnight. But pain doesn't disappear, it festers. Polly still spoke to spirits. She still believed they surrounded her. Aisha was patient, but he noticed the cracks, long periods of sadness, moments where she seemed elsewhere. Still, they held together until 2007, because in that year, someone new entered their lives, a stranger who would dismantle everything, Kiki Muddar. They met as neighbors. Kiki Muddar lived next door. At first, it seemed harmless. Then things became odd. Kiki told Polly her boyfriend had been killed in the London riots, that she was dying of cancer, that her life was filled with tragedy and pain. Polly, who understood pain better than most, opened her arms, and slowly, without even realizing, opened her life. Over 3.5 years, Kiki embedded herself into Polly's world. At first, she was just a visitor, then a fixture, then a constant. She joined meals, she stayed late, she whispered advice. Aisha grew uneasy. "She's too close," he told Polly. "She's lying, she's off." But Polly defended her. "You don't understand her like I do," she said. Behind the scenes, Kiki was dismantling Polly's support system, telling her Asa was cheating, undermining her marriage, making herself irreplaceable. Asa tried to fight back. He moved the family to a new home, a reset, a clean break. But Kiki wasn't done. She reappeared, claiming her cancer had returned. She had nowhere to go. She was in pain. Could she stay? just for a few nights? Polly said yes. Days passed, then weeks. One night, Aisha came home from work and found Kiki in their bed. Polly looked up and told him plainly, "She's staying here now. You can take the sofa." It wasn't just the physical intrusion, it was emotional. The two women had grown inseparable and soon intimate. Their relationship had crossed a line. That was the moment Aisha knew he had lost his wife. By 2013, the marriage was over. Polly had moved out, this time with Kiki, and taken her two youngest daughters to a flat in Shadwell. The eldest child chose to stay with Aisha. Among the children who went with Polly was Ayesha. Ayesha Ali was 9 years old, lively, bright, popular with neighbors. Her teachers described her as eager to help, quick with a joke, and kind to everyone. She loved art, loved dancing, and adored her siblings. But that move to Shadwell, it was the beginning of the end. There were no familiar routines, no school friends, no Aisha, just Polly and Kiki. And behind closed doors, Kiki had taken full control. She read Polly's messages, monitored her phone, decided who she could speak to. She even made decisions about the children. Polly didn't seem to mind. She was falling deeper under Kiki's spell. Her past beliefs in spirits and voices from beyond had now found a new channel, one Kiki could control. Shadwell was supposed to be a fresh start, but it became a pressure cooker, sealed tight by control, secrecy, and digital deception. It was around this time that Polly was introduced to a man named Jimmy Shree. A Facebook friend of Kiki's, Jimmy was handsome, charming, and claimed to be deeply interested in her. Polly, lonely, vulnerable, aching for connection, was drawn in immediately. They exchanged thousands of messages, romantic, intimate. She fell for him, completely. They never met, but Polly told Jimmy she wanted to have his children. She believed he was the one. But there was no Jimmy. He was just another ghost in Kiki's fabricated world. Behind the screen, every word typed, every emoji sent, every "I love you" was Kiki. And then Kiki introduced a new character, Skyman. Skyman wasn't a boyfriend, he was a spirit, a guiding force, an angel, or so Polly believed. He messaged her regularly, offering advice from the other side, sometimes comforting, often stern. It didn't take long for the messages to take a dark turn. "Your daughter is not who she seems," Skyman wrote. "She is evil. She is the devil." Polly had always believed in the spirit world. It was the one place where things had always made sense. So, when Skyman spoke, she didn't question him. She obeyed. And the target of his instructions, her youngest daughter, Aisha. The rules started out strange. Aisha was told to eat jam sandwiches, something she hated, within 15 minutes. If she didn't, she'd be punished. She had to go to the toilet on time. She had to follow arbitrary commands, down to the second. These weren't chores, they were tests, and failure meant pain. At first, Polly delivered the punishments, then Kiki joined in. Wooden spoons, slaps, freezing cold baths, psychological torment. It wasn't discipline, it was domination. Aisha, at just 8 years old, was trapped in a twisted world where everything was wrong and she was always to blame. Her diary told the real story. It's the weekend today, and most of my friends are probably watching telly. I'm just sitting here making notes. I've learned I have to change. I will change. If I be rude, then nobody will like me. I hate getting punishments, so I'm going to make sure I change. It's hard to read those words without feeling your heart break, because she wasn't angry, she wasn't defiant, she was just trying to be better, to be good, to survive. Skyman's messages became more vicious. "You have no right to ever love your evil daughter," one said. One night, Kiki entered Aisha's room wearing a devil mask. Aisha screamed in terror. Polly, cold and flat-eyed, simply said, "Don't be stupid, there's nothing there." But there was something there, a dark force, not supernatural, human, calculated, real, and it was closing in. August 28th, 2013. It was the last night of Aisha's life. There was no school to escape to, no teacher to confide in, no father to protect her, just Polly and Kiki in the flat. No one knows exactly what triggered the final explosion of violence, but that night, Aisha was beaten hard. Over 50 injuries were later found on her small body. A bite mark on her shoulder, bruises on her limbs, carpet burns on her back, and the final fatal blow, delivered with a heavy metal shower head. The same shower head Kiki had bought the day before. After the beating, Aisha lay still. Breathing stopped, heart stopped. And then, nothing. No call for help. No rush to save her. Instead, Kiki took Polly's youngest daughter to her parents' house, leaving Polly alone with Aisha's body. It was a calculated move, a cold choice. Polly tried to take her own life that night. She wrote a note claiming that Aisha had tried to drown herself, and that she, Polly, had smothered her only to end her suffering. But the injuries didn't match the story. There was no water in her lungs. The cause of death was blunt force trauma. The truth was darker. Aisha didn't die by accident. She didn't die quickly. She was murdered, in her own home, by the people who were supposed to protect her. Morning light crept into the flat in Shadwell on August 29th, 2013. At around 11:30 a.m., Kiki Muddar finally called emergency services. She claimed she'd just arrived and found Aisha unresponsive. Paramedics arrived within minutes. What they saw was nothing short of tragic. Aisha's small body lay cold on the bedroom floor. Her face was bruised, her limbs swollen, her chest still. In another room, Polly was found unconscious, an overdose, a suicide note beside her. The note claimed that Aisha had tried to drown herself in the bath, that Polly, desperate to end her suffering, had smothered her with a pillow. But the paramedics could already tell. Something didn't add up. Detectives were brought in almost immediately. A post-mortem revealed more than 50 injuries, some old, some fresh. Aisha hadn't drowned. There was no water in her lungs. Her official cause of death, blunt force trauma to the back of her head, inflicted by a shower head. Not smothering, not an accident, and not alone. Polly's phone was the first crack in the illusion. Investigators dug into her messages. They found exchanges with Jimmy Shree, with Skyman, thousands of texts, dozens of names, an entire digital universe orbiting around Polly. But something was off. None of these people could be verified. Jimmy, no record. Skyman, no source. Every contact was a ghost. Then detectives looked at Kiki's phone, and the web began to collapse. Jimmy Shree, created by Kiki. Skyman, also Kiki. The friends, the family members, the spiritual advisors, all Kiki. Every fake account, every comforting text, every manipulative instruction. She had sent over 40,000 messages and made more than 1,500 audio recordings, all to keep Polly inside her world, a world where Kiki was the only real person Polly could trust. Even more disturbing, Kiki had planted seeds of paranoia months earlier, convincing Polly that Asa, her ex-husband, had been unfaithful, that he didn't love her, that her children were against her. Isolation was her strategy. And Aisha? Kiki had disliked her from the start. The young girl had seen through the lies, sensed the darkness. Kiki wanted her gone. Police also recovered a chilling audio message. Kiki's voice, casual, even amused. "I'm going to kill her." And she did.
Kill Polly's daughter. I'm not even joking. I'm not joking, I'm going to kill her. Seriously, you will never see me again. I'm going to kill her. I swear to God, I'm going to kill her. I will drown her in bath. I will drown that witch.
Even after Aisha's body was taken away, Kiki showed no remorse. When paramedics carried her lifeless form from the flat, Kiki reportedly said, "She was a naughty child. Her mum thought she was possessed." The final nail? CCTV footage showing Kiki buying a brand new shower head the day before Aisha was killed. The same model found broken near the girl's body.
And finally, physical harm on Aisha. What the motive behind the campaign of abuse was remains unclear. What is painfully clear, however, is that Aisha had her life taken away in horribly brutal circumstances. And now
it was no longer a mystery. It was a confession built from digital dust. Kiki Muddar hadn't just manipulated Polly. She had engineered a reality, populated it with characters, and used it to orchestrate a child's death. Things moved fast for Kiki Muddar. Her trial began almost immediately. The courtroom was silent. 2 women stood trial, both accused of murder. Each had taken a different path to the same dark place. Each now pointed the finger at the other. Polly claimed she'd been manipulated. She said she truly believed the Sky Man was her grandfather speaking from the afterlife. She said she had been under Kiki's control, spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically. That she hadn't known what was real anymore. On the stand, Polly wept. Described how she tried to stop Kiki from hurting Aisha, and how, at times, she didn't. How she once walked in to see Kiki holding Aisha down in the bath, pressing her foot against her chest. And how Polly, rather than fight or flee, simply walked back to her computer in another room. She was not evil, she insisted, just lost. Kiki said almost nothing. Diagnosed with traits of narcissistic personality disorder, she declined to testify in her own defense. Through her lawyers, she claimed she was at her parents' home when Aisha was fatally injured. But the timeline didn't match. The medical evidence suggested the injuries occurred hours earlier, during a window when Kiki was certainly at the flat. Still, neither woman admitted responsibility. Throughout the trial, they never looked at each other, never exchanged a glance, never said the child's name with warmth. And so, the jury was left with a tragic riddle. Who dealt the fatal blow? The answer was never found, and because of that uncertainty, neither woman was convicted of murder. Instead, they were found guilty of manslaughter. Polly received a 13-year sentence, reduced to 10 on appeal. Kiki was sentenced to 18 years. That too was reduced, 15 years behind bars, for the woman who created a universe of lies that ended in a child's death. Justice was delivered, but it didn't feel like enough. Not to Aisha's father. Ayesha Ali stood outside the courtroom on the day of the verdict. In his hands, a written statement. In his voice, unimaginable grief. Over the last few weeks, I've sat in court as the truth unfolded. But not the truth about my daughter, my princess Aisha. It was the truth about what they did to her. How they tortured her. How they took her life away. He paused. The cameras clicked. His voice cracked. Aisha was an amazing little girl. Loving, caring, intelligent, always smiling, helpful to everyone she met. She was a gift of love. I knew it from the moment she came into my life. Now she's gone, and nothing will bring her back. All that was left were the memories, her laughter, her joy, the way she used to dance in the living room, the way she hugged him too tight before school. He ended his statement with words that will stay with anyone who heard them. She was my sunshine, my closest friend, and they took her from me. If this case shocked you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What signs were missed? What could have changed the outcome? Subscribe for more true crime stories that deserve to be told. Until next time, stay aware, stay compassionate,